It seems like North America just can't stop talking about the Sentinels. Long has it been since they've been a contending team, but the dream that they'll one day make it back to the top keeps the Valorant community as a whole awake at night. The Sentinels squeaked into the last chance qualifier after two shambolic performances in Stage 1 going 3-2 and losing the first round of playoffs, as well as in Stage 2 going 0-5. Yet the Sentinels' round 1 match against the Guard destroyed any sort of domestic viewership ranking that we've had so far, with 620,000 viewers for a round 1 match. For context, this destroys the peak of both Stage 1 and Stage 2 combined, as they kept out at 275,000 and 215,000 respectively. Oh yeah, and they were both held by the Sentinels. How does this non-contending team garner so much respect from the community and viewership, and how does this team keep winning without winning? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Dome. My name is Dominic. At the time of recording, the NA LCQ is still going on, but I think I don't need any more time to talk about how the Sentinels have already won. They may not qualify for champions, but they've won something much greater, and that is cementing themselves at the top of North American Valorant. With this loss to the Guard, Sentinels has almost assuredly guaranteed their spot in franchising for next year. Because despite their lack of competitive success, the Sentinels offer something that no other team in the VCT can offer: accessibility. Riot's selection process for the 2023 franchising model, they've stated that they will select partner teams who have a track record of building great esports experiences, developing players, and can meaningfully contribute to the long-term growth of Valorant esports. Sentinels started off as a championship team who have now been relegated to battle it out in the proverbial parking lot. Along with their minimal coaching and development staff until recently, means that it wouldn't be great to say that they're great at developing their players. While I think the viewership they bring contributes to the long-term growth of Valorant as a scene, if Sentinels were to fold, the top players like Tens, Shazam, and Zelsis would all likely join other competing rosters and bring their fanbase with them, so while they're good at this, I don't think this is their strongest suit. But it's that last prompt, building great esports experiences, that Sentinels has done time and time again, that has made them such a staple of the NA Valorant scene. Who else would pick up a retired, old, washed up CSGO legend 2 weeks before a tournament? These fucking guys. Today I'm not necessarily focusing on the players as individuals or how they play as a team or their in-game strategies. I'll save that for other videos you can find over here after this video, of course. But instead I want to focus on the organization that is the Sentinels. What moves did this organization make to get them to the position that they are in now? And how can other esports organizations learn from, shall I say, the Sentinels' manic moves? Prior to their introduction to Valorant, Sentinels as an organization was founded in 2016, previously known as Phoenix One, and was part of the LCS. They later went on to partner with the Cronky Sports and Entertainment to start a team in Overwatch known as the LA Gladiators. However, due to a dispute, KSC and Phoenix One split, with KSC keeping their Overwatch and Call of Duty teams, while Phoenix One, rebranding themselves as Sentinels, would keep the remaining talent. Of that talent, the most prominent was their Fortnite division with the Fortnite World Cup winner Bugha, and then recent Overwatch retired pro, gone streamer, XQC. Sentinels from day one was built on a foundation of blending competition with mass appeal. And if the Cronky Sports and Entertainment group sounds familiar, they later went on to create their own separate esports organization outside of OWL and CDL, named themselves The Guard. It was later in 2019 when Sentinels picked up a new roster, leading into the release of Riot's new first-person shooter, Valorant. The Sentinels' initial roster was a gamble, taking a bunch of veteran esports players looking to join the new scene. While in hindsight it proved to be an amazing lineup, it was honestly really lucky that everyone on the roster translated their skills very well to Valorant. Other organizations at the time picking up teams were based only on beta results, who would mostly all drop or replace their rosters within 1 year's time. They picked up 3 great CSGO converts, Shazam, Sick, and Dapper, as well as Apex Legends player Zoms. But it was their last blockbuster player that turned a lot of heads: Overwatch League MVP Sinatra. Not only was this lineup successful out the gate in their competitive efforts, landing 3rd place in Riot's First Strike events, the equivalent of the VCT at the time, but they were a top 3 team going into the 2021 VCT. Every player on the team had some form of tier 1 experience across a number of organizations, so both in star power and play, they were one of the most recognizable teams early on. Now, we all know what happens next though. Just before the 2021 Masters 1 event, a very credible sexual assault allegation came to light against Sinatra. He was then banned from competitive play and benched from the Sentinels rosters for the foreseeable future. Not only was Sinatra a star in the game, be considered one of the best Valorant players in North America at the time, but he was a star out of the game, boasting one of the biggest followings in the Valorant community. How are they going to replace such a unique talent with another player that could prove that sort of star power? Okay, well, I didn't realize how easy that was going to be. One call and multiple millions of dollars later, Sentinels not only kept a competitive roster with the addition of Cloud9's Valorant wonder kid TenZ on the roster, but it upheld the Sentinels' balance of competition and content. Not only was TenZ another top 10 streamer under the Sentinels name, but he's also really good at the game. With TenZ now in the lineup, Sentinels went on to have a career that we all know very well. First place at Masters 1, first place at Masters 2 without dropping a single map, and they were going to Masters 3 as the first seed from North America. Their success and popularity came from a mix of their competitive accolades alongside their active online personalities. Among the Sentinels players, 4 of its members fall within the top 100 Valorant streamers on Twitch, with 2 of them, TenZ and Shazam, falling within the top 10 for 2022. TenZ in particular is one of the most recognizable player content creators in all of Valorant. Despite Sentinels as an organization having teams in both Halo and Fortnite, most of their socials started focusing on the Valorant roster, exploding their popularity to be the 3rd fastest growing esports team in 2021. Now, however, whether it was a global offensive to dismount this dominant team, the inability to adapt to the changing metas, or a lack of practice or motivation, Sentinels fell from grace. It started with an early exit at Masters 3, losing to the eventual finalists and NA rivals Optic in the playoffs, which was a pretty respectable loss at the time. Then it was a failure to make it out of group stage at Champions 2021, which marked another bad performance, but maybe it could just be a fluke. You know, Optic had also failed to make it out of the group stage at Champions, but then later went on to win the first Masters event of 2022. But where are the Sentinels? Oh yeah, they didn't qualify for Masters 1 in 2022. Barely even qualifying for a North American playoff spot. And now at the most recent VCT Stage 2, not only did they not qualify for the NA playoffs, they didn't win a single match in the group stage. In the Valorant community, relevance comes from competitive success. Teams like the Guard can become a top organization, not just because they dumped a bunch of money into the game, but because they are winning and qualifying for tournaments. T1 has some of the best players on their team, but outside of some roster moves, you haven't really seen anybody talk about their tournament placements. Immortals, Gen.G, and V1 have all been relegated to Tier 2 tournaments, and thus are outside the normal domain of conversation, whether their teams are relevant or not. By all previous accounts, the Sentinels should be irrelevant. So how the hell did Sentinels break all domestic viewership records? The genius of the Sentinels model is that their roster is balanced for casual and competitive success, and how the Sentinels organization uses that roster to promote their organization, not just the players. These two things in tandem creates a perfect esports experience for the viewers. A team you know both their individual identities as well as their team identities, fighting with their lives on the line. There are 3 major rosters that the Sentinels has played under, each again balancing these identities. The first was the originally constructed roster during the first Strike era. Dapper, Sick, Zoms, Shazam, and Sinatra. Although this roster is the furthest in memory, it is still very recognizable because of the longevity of its players. 3 of its players continue to be a part of the Sentinels roster: Sick, Dapper, and Shazam. Their skills and experiences have translated in such a way that they can remain competitive even as hot new players pop up and burn out around them. This longevity also adds to their individual influencer careers. As stated before, Shazam is one of the most watched Valorant content creators for his insane streaming schedule. This is also the only Sinatra-led Valorant roster, and although it's only lasted for about 6 months, his name is still connected to the Sentinels brand. Despite the morally complex nature of everything surrounding Sinatra, he has grown to be another top Valorant streamer under the Sentinels name in 2022. He continues to push that the Sentinels is synonymous with Valorant. The next era for the Sentinels was after acquiring TenZ, and it's hard to describe how bleak the situation seemed to be for the Sentinels prior to Masters 1. The top contending team just had their best player ripped away from them, and it seemed impossible to replace him. But when it was announced that TenZ had been acquired from the C9 roster, the entire trajectory of the Sentinels organization changed, because the Sentinels gained the power to write their own narrative. And it's this differentiator that provides a must-watch esports experience. At Masters 1, they posed this question: how good would the new Sentinels be, and will TenZ be as good as he used to be? Using these recognizable and high-level actors, the Sentinels created a stage play that absolutely destroyed all viewership records in North America at the time, with their first match against LG as the highest viewed match of the domestic Masters 1 tournament. 4 of the top 5 matches from that tournament were all dominated by the Sentinels. They won the tournament and continued to pose more questions with each tournament that came on. will the Sentinels lead NA to their first international Masters win? Can the Sentinels sweep EU rivals Fnatic in the grand finals to clean sweep the entire Masters Reykjavik tournament? Is Tens the best player in the world if he continues to beat all these high-level teams? Can they win it again in North America when they come back after Iceland? Will Zoms ever make up with the Brazilian team? Questions like these keeps the Sentinels matches interesting whether they're winning or not, but in this case, they were always winning. But nearing the end of their run, as they were losing match after match, they lost the ability to control the narrative. Instead, only one question plagued every match: when will the Sentinels be back? Although they're still highly watched matches because of the reputation that they built, the viewership starts to fade. And this is where that final roster comes in, because after a brief stint with both Konpeki joining the roster, dropping Zom, and Sick taking a mental health break, Sentinels snuck into the NA Last Chance qualifier for Champions 2022. They would be up against top talent like the Guard, FaZe, and 100 Thieves, all making huge pushes to make it to the international stage, and the Sentinels was just a competitive husk of itself. They wouldn't be able to compete with them. However, it's as if they remembered a time before the script was written for them. They decided to write a new script. Can we win with Shroud? This newest roster is composed of Sentinels veterans Tens, Shazam, and Dapper, as well as rising player content creator Zelsis, and the Sentinels' biggest gamble, a guy who hasn't competed in T1 Valorant. Shroud is not just one of the biggest names in first-person shooters, but is one of the biggest content creators in the world. He is a gamer, but in what form would he be able to compete against other top-tier players? How would this new roster mesh together? Could they even win a game? Sentinels, the organization, used this opportunity to pump out content with their stars. Using the highest level actors in the Valorant community, the stage had been set for one of the most watched esports experiences in Valorant history. And it was just that. Although Sentinels lost their match against the Guard, it didn't really matter. Not only did they break viewership records for the tournament, they passed all previous domestic matches and even most international tournament matches. Sentinels stamped themselves at the top of Valorant, saying that they are able to provide great esports experiences. I started the video by asking this: and how does this team keep winning without winning? And the answer lies in the heart of the people. Of course, players care about winning matches, but people care about the anticipation of that answer. That is what gets people to watch. Sentinels dominated for so long with the same roster that everyone has an opinion on them, whether you want them to win, whether you want them to lose. They could have burnt out, slowly switching around roster pieces in an effort to stay relevant, but instead they continue to work with the same recognizable roster, a roster of winners. So when they talked, the Valorant community had to listen. Love them or hate them, they're here to stay. Sentinels blends the perfect amount of competition with casual appeal that no other team has in the entire VCT. We've seen streamers try to create teams and compete, teams like Ninja's team or even Shroud's old team back in the beta, but none of them can place well. But it's the perfect blend of personality and capability to compete alongside the Sentinels' willingness to focus on content that leads them to be a staple of North America, no matter whether they're winning or losing. And this is why the Sentinels is so unique, because either way, they're winning. And as always, thank you for watching. I'm excited to see how the rest of the LCQ will come out, depending on how long this video will take. It might come out during the last few matches, or it might come out beforehand, I'm not entirely sure. But if it's still going on, you want to watch me watch the LCQ, want to hop in the watch party, talk about it a little bit more, I'll be streaming it on my YouTube channel. As well, you can hop in the Discord. My Discord community is always active, talking about the video game, talking about more video games. It's very cool in there. You can also follow me on Twitter for more opinions. And finally, subscribe. It's cool, it's free, it's easy. You get a video in your inbox every once in a while, and I think they're pretty cool. Anyways, I gotta go. Have a good one. Peace out, guys.